Hi, and welcome to the Joyous Health Podcast, hosted by me, Joy McCarthy, and my Habs business partner, Walker Jordan.
On our show, you'll be invited to learn about nutrition, well-being, beauty, family, and business.
All the things that we're deeply curious and passionate about.
We love to chat and have a few good laughs.
And our goal is to bring a dose of joy to your day. Hello, everyone. You are in for a magical discussion.
Oh, I like what you did there with magical. It's a good hint.
It is. This is such a wonderfully inspiring and informative chat with Tonya
Papanikolov.
Thank you, Walker. I'm glad you pronounced her last name because I didn't want to screw it up. But she is an absolute joy to chat with about all things mushrooms.
And fungi, which we learned there is a very unique difference.
Yes, that is true.
Right? So
I didn't know that.
Stay tuned. I didn't know that either, but stay tuned.
But it's way more exciting than that. Anyways, she goes really deep into how certain mushrooms are incredible for cognitive function, for immune health, for energy. But it's not just like surface talk. It's like she goes deep into the history of all these different mushrooms.
We also discovered that there is an explosive mushroom.
Yes, that was so cool. Like a combustible mushroom that just...
Also a combustible mushroom.
Poof. Anyways, this chat is so great. I'm so excited for this chat to get out into the world because Tonya is a really fascinating human and really deeply understands... I mean, heck, her spirit animal is a spirit mushroom, right? Or she said reishi is her spirit mushroom. Anyways, she is in love with mushrooms and you're going to be in love with mushrooms too.
Yeah, so I think this is also a really timely chat because right now you see a lot of mushrooms products on the market and they're definitely becoming very trendy. And you want to make sure that when you are choosing a mushroom product and you're going to understand all the great reasons why you do, that you're really choosing the right ones, high quality, and really understand what they do. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tonya, and she's a graduate of the Institute of Holistic Nutrition and holds a Bachelor of Nutrition and Nutraceutical Sciences from the University of Guelph, and is also a certified Reiki Level 2 healer.
She is the creative force behind The Well Woman, which is a community and education platform inspiring the power of plant food to nourish and elevate mind, body, and spirit. And she's also started the medicinal mushroom-based supplement and functional foods brand Rainbo.
Tonya educates on holistic wellness and using food as medicine through one-on-one consultations, workshops, seminars, retreats, and community-based culinary experiences. Her philosophy is simple. Radiance starts on the inside. Eat whole plant foods, learn to interpret and listen to your body.
Develop self-awareness, meditate, and these are definitely rituals that she definitely practices what she preaches. The importance of finding a community, trusting and developing your intuition, staying curious, and she's all about leaving the planet better than you found it. So she hopes that through inspiring a connection with nourishing foods, ritual, and self-care, others can experience the same healing from chronic health issues that she has had. We actually started out our chat by talking about a chronic health issue she had from mold in her home. So that was really, really informative and how she kind of healed her body with that. Now, before we get to this chat, make sure that you subscribe to the Joyous newsletter because every week we send out the latest podcast episodes, new recipes, and just so much inspiration to help you live a happy, joyous life. And you can subscribe by going to
hi.joyoushealth.com. That's hi.joyoushealth.com.
And if you love this episode, which I know you're going to, please take a screenshot and share with your family and friends because that's really how we get the word out about the Joyous Health Podcast and all of the amazing guests that we have on here as well. So here is our chat with Tonya. Welcome to the podcast, Tonya. We're really thrilled to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm also, thrilled to chat with you too.
Well, no one can see you, but we saw you a few moments ago and you are just glowing. And we didn't realize, or rather, I kind of forgot that there's a 3-hour time difference because you're on the West Coast right now. But it must be all those mushrooms. You look really great and glowing because it's 7 in the morning where you are, and it's much later for us, obviously, here.
Oh, thank
So
you.
yeah, and you mentioned you're an early bird, so you woke up early this morning. Are there any like rituals that you love to do every morning?
I do, and I will say that the early bird is it's like a 2022 thing. I've actually
Oh,
really struggled with mornings for a while. And as of this year, I mean I've always really loved mornings, but I've kind of like struggled to wake up before 8. And now I don't really know what it is or what happened, but since January, I've been waking up between like 5:45, usually around 5:30, 5:45, and I have a really luxurious morning practice, which is I practice Kundalini yoga. So I have like a 40 or 50-minute practice first thing and just drink a bunch of water, and it's really wonderful. um, Meditating for me in the morning, especially at that time, is kind of like there's no other point in the day where my mind has that level of clarity. So now it's just something like I just love that experience of meditating at that hour, so I wake up for it.
So granted, it's only been a couple of months at this point. Are you now an early birder for life?
We'll see. We'll see. I usually don't make definitive statements like that because life just changes and throws you curveballs. But another one of the reasons I think that it's also a bit easier for me is that my team is on the East Coast, and
mm.
I'm online working at 7. So it's like I think that's also another reason. But I hope that this lasts. I love I love mornings, and I'm like officially getting tired at 9 p.m. So it's happening.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you that. Do you make sure that you go to bed early? Because that's the thing, right? To feel so vibrant and alive that early in the morning and do yoga, you kind of have to make sure that you get to bed early.
Totally. And I like this is like such a big change for me. Literally, like the rest most of my life have been actually like I work at night and I get my best work done at night. And it was like I would be up until midnight, or in my 20s it was like even later. But yeah, it really is quite a big switch. And I am going to bed at somewhere between like 9 and 10.
So what was the impetus for that change? Considering that you kind of existed more in that night owl phase, what kind of went on that decided you want to wake up earlier in the morning?
Well, what was nice was that it was actually an environmental change. I was in Costa Rica, and the the whole environment just wakes up so early, and you're kind of you feel like you're almost sleeping outside most of the time. So I was just up with the sun, and the birds were just like chirping so loud. And so it was really just I started waking up naturally in Costa Rica. I was there for 5 weeks, and that was only an hour ahead. So that kind of like really an hour ahead of Toronto, I'll say. So that was where it kind of started. And then when we got to California, direct from Costa Rica, my partner and I were just like, oh, we should probably just continue this. And it was relatively easy. So the transition was pretty simple.
Well, it just goes to show you, like, I think of when I was a kid and I used to go camping and you're sleeping in a tent, you
Hmm.
literally fall, you're so tired. Like, as soon as the sun goes down, you're like ready to go to sleep. And you really do
Totally.
wake up. Like, when you hear the birds chirping and the squirrels rustling in the leaves, like, it's just such a natural way, following the circadian, just like really getting into
Absolutely.
a natural circadian rhythm and following when the sun rises and the sun falls, it just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When I think back to when I was kind of struggling and being like, you should wake up earlier, and having that internal dialogue, I was also living in a moldy house. And so I was
Mm,
struggling with fatigue. And that was also another reason where I feel like I feel like my whole system is just readjusting. And I spent a lot of time detoxing in November and December. So that has lifted like that level of fatigue where like I just, even though it was like 8 or 9 hours I was sleeping, I was really tired in the mornings and waking up at 8.
Yeah, let's talk about that actually. I know I didn't realize until we just started chatting that you had a mold problem in your house. So how did you discover that?
Um, I discovered it, well, I had been living there for 2.5 years, and uh, I discovered it last spring. Last spring is when it was like really hitting me hard because I didn't know this at the time, but everything was thawing. And so the snow was melting and the building had water damage, which I didn't know at the time. But I was just feeling so terrible. Last March, I basically had 3.5 weeks, no end with a continuous migraine. And
Oh.
so, and just extreme fatigue. So I was like, okay, something is definitely going on. I have a bunch of my natural practitioners who I was seeing, and they were all kind of like, well, one of them didn't realize or didn't recognize it was mold at the time. He was like, what's going on? Like, is this candida? What is this? We had done a live blood cell microscopy, and it was just really messy. Uh, and didn't really make sense because I have a clean diet and a healthy lifestyle. So I was just getting like these kind of intuitive hits and chatting with some friends who had similar symptoms. And so I decided to order a urine test from a lab that's here in the US, Great Plains Lab. They do like at home mycotoxin kits. So I sent that for testing. I had a sneaking suspicion that that might be the case. And then it came back as really high into mycotoxins. And so that was last April that I found out. And then it's one of those tricky things where you'd like to think you can get out of your environment as quickly as possible,
Mhm.
but it just takes time and you kind of have to find a new place. And ideally, you're out of there right away. But it just wasn't the case for us. We were kind of like, you know, my partner was traveling a lot and we weren't really sure what we wanted to do. So it took us a few months to actually, we knew we needed to make the change and we just kind of needed to like get there. So we actually left in the fall and we spent a lot of time out of the house and like with the windows open. And I did an ERMI test on the place as well, just to confirm that that I did get the exposure from that house.
Mhm.
And it was definitely that place. The like environmental house dust collection kit came back really gnarly.
Ugh.
Um, yeah, really gross. And it just like the place didn't have HVAC. It was really old. Uh, it was COVID, right? So we had our we were indoors for a big chunk of time.
Mhm. Yeah, spending so much more time indoors than ever before.
Yeah.
And how long do you feel like did it take you once you kind of identified that? That kind of sucks that you had to stay there a little while longer, but obviously you
Mhm.
started your healing journey right away, I'm sure. But what were some of the things that you did? And from like a mental health perspective, how did you kind of transcend the fact that, okay, I have to live here for a couple more months and be exposed to this? Like, what did you, like, was it something in your meditation practice? What did you do to kind of deal with that aspect of it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I kind of like was able to see the ironic humor in it because I was like, I have a fungi company and I'm
Yeah, totally.
so like I'm so deeply connected to mushrooms and fungi. I really do feel that. And so it was kind of just like, oh, so funny. They're just trying to like take over every aspect of my life. So definitely like, yeah, ironic. And I'm also like, I am so sensitive. And so of course mold affects people so differently and long-term effects are going to be negative across the board for everybody. But then there's, the 25% of the population who respond uh, with symptoms immediately. And the response is just like much greater than other people. For example, my partner is kind of no, actually, he had a lot of like sinus issues, but it's just different for everybody.
Right, totally.
Um, but my my reprieve is typically nature and my meditation practice, but it's kind of an unusual feeling to like be looking around and like really kind of grossed out by your environment and like looking at all the dust everywhere and knowing that you just have this like lack of trust in your home. So that just is what it was what it was. I think there's like a level of acceptance that you just come to terms with, where I was kind of like, okay, I trust my body. I know my detox pathways are working as efficiently as they can, and I'm just going to support my body with saunas and a lot of really clean water, and some supplements and binders to kind of help my body, and just trust that we're going to go on lots of walks, and we got an air purifier to kind of help with the interim air quality. And then, I mean, meditation just helps with everything. So I wasn't like directing it specifically towards like having a lot of like resistance or feelings around staying in that place. But yeah, by the time it got to the fall, I was like, okay, it's time to go. We can't wait another minute, and kind of like put the pressure on.
So do you feel like you're totally healed from that experience now?
Well, I actually just ordered another kit to do a test. So I do feel a lot better. Another thing that I had was this skin rash called tinea versicolor, which is actually like a fungal infection on the skin.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like kind of on my abdomen, on my stomach area. And that has cleared up. It kind of took a little while to clear up, and it was just going back and forth. And so there are certain foods that still kind of can make it act up a bit, but for the most part, that's really, really subsided. So it feels like I've made big strides, and I've been taking my binders. I've kind of been following this protocol. So I think I feel different, and the rash is almost gone. So I think that I'm nearly there, but it's really cool to be able to actually have some labs to be able to verify that, you have detoxed properly, or if, it's going to require some more effort and time.
Well, I'm glad you're able to like do those kinds of tests, because it just gives you that, feeling of security, like, okay, I've done everything I need to do. I'm now all clear. And I was kind of chuckling to myself. I can relate when you said you feel like you're in this house and, you're like, oh, you can't trust your own house, because we went through a whole thing. We got a kitten recently who had a fungal infection. I forget. It's the common term is ringworm, but I don't like using that word because a lot of people think it's intestinal worms. It's actually a misnomer. It's a fungal skin infection. So basically our cat, our kitten came with this, and then doing research, we're like, oh my God, like this kitten has been roaming the house for 8-10 days, and now our entire house is infected. So we had to like literally wash and sanitize everything. And our cat actually to this day is still in quarantine. This is more recent. It's been how long?
It's been a couple of weeks now.
Yeah,
but
her name's Waffles. Waffles is still in quarantine, but we're getting to the end of it, and we have to go do like another culture for her fur to see if the infection is gone. But our daughter got like just eaten by it.
No.
Yeah, the problem was we didn't know, and then she had a cold virus, so she was actually home from school for a week with a bad cold. And so she was with Waffles literally 24/7. And then these like spots started popping up on her face. And I'm like, oh, it's probably just like the cold virus. Cause like kids, they just get these like random things. Anyway, then when we figured out that Waffles had ringworm, we're like, oh my God, and realized Vienna was literally covered from head to toe. So
wow.
Yeah. We dealt with that. So I know what you mean by like, oh, you can't even trust your home, because then we're like, can I sit on this couch? Is there a spore there? Like, is it clean enough?
We just need to transcend the ringworm.
Yeah, totally.
You rise above it.
I know. You know what? Honestly, that's why when I asked that question, because I was thinking back to, I interviewed this woman for the podcast, Veronica, who's like, she sells like this line of like energetic jewelry, and she had electromagnetic sensitivity. And her story was so fascinating, because like she was living in this apartment on the top floor, and literally right above her head were like the largest cell towers. And it was really
I always
interesting.
think about those people.
Oh, I know. So her whole journey was like a 5 or 7 year journey of dealing with this and trying to figure out why she was so sick. And then when she realized, she found out her bedroom was literally underneath the largest one. But the fascinating thing about that, yeah, I know, it's so crazy. The fascinating thing about that discussion was when we were getting towards the end and like all the different things she did. And then she finally found a new place to live. She moved into this house and she was living on the top floor of the house. And then like a month after she moved in, they installed a cell tower on top of the house. No. So then, sorry, the story is getting somewhere. I know it's kind of long. But just circling back to this, she said to me, she's like, Joy, I decided at that point it didn't matter anymore because I had to transcend the EMFs. I wasn't going to allow them to continue to make me sick. And I always think about that. I think about that with this like ringworm that was everywhere in our house. I'm like, we have to transcend it.
Yeah.
Right?
I was just saying that to my friend last week because it was like, I love talking about healing journeys because it's like a hero's journey, truly. And
totally.
And it was so funny with that moldy house where I had just found out I had parasites and entered that space that had mold and started my parasite cleanse for 3 months only to be being exposed to mold simultaneously. And I remember just like last week, I was just like, what, at what point are we just like, we're good. We're like, let's just transcend this and like get to this place where it feels long. And I don't mean it to sound negative because I think healing has ultimately been the greatest gift. And I think sensitivity is also a great gift. But, at some point you're just like, okay, so let's transcend.
Well, I think one of the things that you mentioned when you were talking about your story was, the trust that you had in your body. And I think sometimes, especially in kind of like a modern day medicine and things like that, we have a tendency generally maybe to be mistrustful of our body's ability to heal itself. And I think, the body is such an incredible, piece of machinery really. And it's so capable at taking care of itself if you provide it with, the raw materials and the tools that it needs, which it obviously sounds like you are. And I think, more people need to have faith in their own biology to thrive and survive. So, between that and transcending everything, it sounds like you're on the right track.
Yeah, I totally agree. Bodies are miraculous.
Absolutely. And now for a short break. I've always been obsessed with skincare products, but because of my sensitive skin, I have to be super careful about what I use. That's one reason I was inspired to create my own line of all-natural products that are safe and gentle enough to use on all skin types. This trio of products includes the gentlest Fresh Face Cleanser, a super refreshing Magical Mist Facial Toner, and the ultimate in skin nourishment, our Hella Hydrating Serum. And that's our incredible skincare trio. We crafted our line to include powerful plant-based ingredients like certified organic rosehip oil, comfrey root, rose geranium, and chamomile. It was also important to me that our products be made locally with natural organic ingredients that have functional benefits that include things like anti-inflammatory action, super hydrating, and antioxidant power to prevent premature wrinkling. Every single ingredient in all 3 of our skincare products has a purpose. You will find 0 fillers in our products. And when it comes to creating a safe, all-natural skincare line, what we put in is just as important as what we leave out. The conventional beauty industry is the furthest thing from clean. In fact, according to the David Suzuki Foundation, up to 80% of conventional personal care products contain the toxic 10 ingredients. This includes everything from parabens to coal tar-derived colors to formaldehyde-releasing agents and hormone-disrupting ingredients such as artificial fragrances that contain phthalates. Unlike conventional products, our skincare line is free from all these harsh chemicals, making it completely safe and non-toxic for you and the planet. With our skincare trio, you're getting the softest, smoothest skin in as easy as 1, 2, 3. So first, you start out your routine with our Fresh Face Cleanser. It's certified organic and super gentle on your skin to leave it feeling supple and refreshed, never stripped and dry. Our cleanser is made with ingredients like cold-pressed organic golden jojoba, which helps to really balance your skin and seal in the moisture while removing excess oil and your makeup and pollution. And comfrey root helps to promote a healthy skin tone, and chamomile extract reduces redness and irritation and can actually help to speed up cell regeneration. So you can feel confident knowing that you're safely cleansing your face and removing makeup without any harsh chemicals, and know that tight feeling you get on your face when you use other products is actually not a good thing. And that means you've actually stripped your skin of that natural oil barrier and impacted your skin microbiome, which you definitely do not want to do. So next, you give yourself a refresh with our ultra-soothing, alcohol-free Magical Mist Facial Toner. You'll be ready to nourish and balance your skin with a super-powered combination of skin-loving, antioxidant-rich ingredients. We included anti-inflammatory rose geranium to calm skin irritation, calendula to soothe, and witch hazel to balance and tone. This alcohol-free toner is infused with ingredients beneficial for a variety of skin conditions, from acne to eczema, making it safe for all skin types. And it also provides the perfect dewy surface to apply the third and final product, our Hella Hydrating Serum. I also want to mention that personally, I used to get, once a month, get that hormonal acne with a couple zits on my cheek, and I actually never get that anymore. And that is thanks to the rose geranium in our Magical Mist because it is antibacterial. But next up, and finally, we're going to talk about our Hella Hydrating Serum. So this simple but powerful serum is made with a combination of just 2 ingredients: cold-pressed organic rosehip oil and hyaluronic acid to really seal in moisture and hydrate your skin. The anti-inflammatory and antioxidant-rich ingredients in this serum will calm any irritation, reduce fine lines, and give you a natural glow. Rosehip oil is a source of vitamin E that will help to soothe and calm your skin, which can make it great if you're dealing with anything like rosacea, eczema, acne-prone skin, or even acne scars. Rosehip oil is amazing for that. And hyaluronic acid is so immensely hydrating that it makes your skin feel plump and smooth and supple. So this 3-step skincare routine is all you need for soft, glowing, healthy skin. So treat yourself to the best in plant-based, simplified organic skincare and harness the power of nature for incredible results. So you can check out our skincare trio at shopjoyoushealth.com/skincare, and you can get a discount 10% off your entire order by using the discount code PODCASTBEAUTY10. And now back to our guest. So I really want to get into talking about your love of mushrooms, because we know you have this wonderful brand and company called Rainbo. And I'm curious, did your love of mushrooms happen before you became a holistic nutritionist?
Yeah, it did. My love of mushrooms started in 2011, so it's been a long journey. I've been studying nutrition since I was in my undergrad, and in 2011 I went to a I guess like a talk that David Wolf was giving in Toronto, and he was the first person that I ever heard speak about mushrooms. And I'll never forget the moment. It was like meeting a best friend or a loved one, where you remember the encounter. And I just remember it so specifically, him speaking to chaga. It's like, it's always been the way he spoke to it, the way it opened my mind to the possibility of plants and adaptogens and fungi, because at that point it wasn't as mainstream as it is, and the wellness industry wasn't what it was at that point. So it was really cool. And some friends, we became friends with him, and he took us like foraging, and was such a wealth of knowledge that it was really inspiring to be around, and kind of taught us how to brew mushroom teas. And so I got into it then, but then it wasn't until 2016 when I was at IHN at the Institute of Holistic Nutrition that one of my practitioners put a therapeutic dose of reishi in my protocol, and that was when I had firsthand experience at how miraculously different I felt after 8 weeks. And I had just such a deep appreciation for the power of reishi and of mushrooms specifically. But it wasn't like, I had no idea at that point that I would create a mushroom brand. It wasn't like, for me, I was just chatting with somebody yesterday, actually. For me, the business wasn't created because I saw like, it was really just based on my experience and realization of how this life form and how fungi can really, really support people and humanity, not just from a medicinal and functional perspective, but across the board, on so many different levels in so many different industries. And that was what really inspired me to create Rainbo in 2018.
Amazing. It sounds like it happened very organically, which is really cool. Like you fell in love with them and it wasn't like, "Oh, I have this great business idea," cuz so often it's the other way around, and it feels so much more authentic and organic when it's like, I fell into this because I was so drawn into the magic of mushrooms and how they impacted your life. So when you were seeing that practitioner and you were taking reishi, what was the purpose of it? Why were you taking it back then?
Back then, I was taking it because I had a lot of digestive issues and hormonal stuff kind of going on. And so the purpose of the protocol was really for liver support at that point, and just supporting my stress. It was a really kind of crazy time in life for me, where I was doing a full-time program that was really intense and also going through a really challenging time in my personal life. And so Rishi kind of comes in with its abilities to support the physical body in a really strong way. It's known for its liver protective qualities. And then also it nourishes the spirit in a traditional sense. In ancient China, it's known to be this Shen tonic, which nourishes the spirit. It's kind of this mushroom for an immortal spirit, which I really love. And so I noticed huge changes in my digestion, though. That was one of the big kind of takeaways from it. And I think that was just the liver support.
That's amazing. I didn't know sort of the magic of reishi to that extent, but I can tell you when I put it in my tea, like if I'm having caffeinated tea, I'm very sensitive to caffeine. If I'm having something caffeinated, I literally do not get that same icky feeling of like, ugh, I just feel like overstimulated.
Right.
It just really helps to like chill me out.
Oh, it's the best. It's my favorite mushroom for that. I think we all need reishi.
So it seems like mushrooms are kind of having their time in the sun right now. It's very trending in the wellness industry in terms of supplementation and things like that. But obviously, it's an ancient practice and an ancient medicine. Can you maybe take us through a little bit of the history of medicinal mushrooms and how they've been used historically?
For sure. So, I mean, fungi have been used for thousands of years. There's various pieces of evidence that kind of these historians have looked at, with like specific magic mushrooms being used around the birth of civilization 12,000 years ago, and potentially even before that. So it's interesting to kind of look at the progression of human evolution and how fungi have played a role in that. But honestly, every ancient culture, so many ancient cultures, have really had mushrooms be a part of their culture. There was, I'm sure you two have heard of the Iceman, the mummy that was
Mm.
found in Italy, and he had two polypore specimens on him, and so he was from this Neolithic period, which dates back 4,000 years, and this is the oldest mummy that we've been able to find, which is so cool to know that he was using fungi, and that those were two things that this guy had on him. And was believed to be in his medicine kit. So he was,
Mm.
could have been using one of the fungi actually um, to create fire, and then the other one is believed to have been used for these antibiotic and parasitic qualities. But of course, that is a speculation. But you would assume that these were mushrooms that he had on him for a functional purpose. And then we go back to like ancient Egypt, and there are hieroglyphics of mushrooms as the plant of immortality. The ancient Aztecs used sacred mushrooms and had a really deep relationship. This was referred to as the flesh of the gods, and they were consumed for holy rituals. And then, of course, China has a really long history with fungi and with mushrooms being really beautifully revered. And there's words that don't really translate in English for how they referred to these mushrooms, but it is a really mycophilic, a mushroom loving culture. And excuse me. And so we have these mushrooms being, there's festivals in China. There's towns that have festivals in China to revere fungi, which I really want to make an effort to go to. I know there's a really cool place that you can visit. And so they have, they were using fungi in ancient times. They were reserving it for royalty. There's amazing stories about cordyceps being stuffed into like turkeys and fed to kings. In ancient Greece, there's like some of the, ancient Greece and ancient Rome, some of the names that we know, Socrates, Plato, and these other kind of elite intellectuals of ancient Greece were speaking of fungi and kind of referring to them as well for treating illnesses in their Materia Medica. I'm trying to think if I missed any, but across every ancient culture, there's been use of fungi, and of course we come back to modern times as well. And fungi revolutionized the world with antibiotics and the discovery of penicillin, and that was a huge advancement for modern medicine. But we call it modern medicine, but really like the traditional medicine is the medicine of the vast majority of the world. And in China, there's reishi and turkey tail being two of the most commonly used natural remedies in those countries. And there's parts of the world that are extremely mycophilic, and there's parts of the world that are mycophobic. So mushroom fearing and mushroom loving. And we have the places like, Eastern Europe and China and Mexico and certain places that have been really renowned and known for mushroom foraging and use of fungi in broths and teas and medicine. And then other countries and continents really that are really fearful of fungi. And we really just lack such an awareness. And the common narrative has been like, don't touch the mushroom, it'll kill you, don't eat that, stay away. And so that was kind of what, one of the things that I really wanted to help educate around and change the narrative around, because it is such an area that where we just need a lot more education around their properties and all that they do.
Can I just go back to something you said really quickly, which I found really fascinating? And probably Joy's, no one else probably picked up on this. You said the Iceman had some mushrooms on him, right?
Yeah.
And one variety you said he used for making fire. Is there like a combustible mushroom?
Yes.
Or is it just, yes?
So
Tell me more about the explosive mushroom.
Okay. sec. Okay, so there is a mushroom called amadou, which is a tinder fungus, and it starts fires. So the famous Paul Stamets has he has like this famous amadou hat that he literally can't get near an open flame because it is known to be flammable.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is it just do you need to like apply like a heat source to it,
You
or is it just friction,
you
or?
you would. I imagine. So you could, I know that this is typically used to like you can use it to start a fire. I'm not exactly sure how, but definitely friction. But if you are near an open flame, it is a mushroom that will burn. Um, and you can, like, the cool thing about mushrooms too is that you can, like, they're biomaterials, so you can make them into wearable items.
Mhm.
That's so cool. Well, I imagine he was
Yeah.
like rubbing sticks together, or maybe, or
I don't know. I was just
or
curious
like
about.
using like a rock and creating like a spark.
I don't know. Maybe it was just I don't know. I just found that really interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
I love that we're having this chat today, and we'll be able to share this with our community, because I think the average North American, when they think of mushrooms, they think of white button mushrooms and turkey
Totally.
tail. They'd be like, does that mean like eating the tail
So
of a
that's not
turkey?
vegan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people are still so unsure. So I think it's amazing that you are helping to bring it more mainstream. And I'm so grateful that we're having this discussion today. And I think what is becoming more mainstream, or what is mainstream, is the concept of adaptogens. At
Mhm.
least it's very popular in the wellness community. So can you talk a little bit about what we mean when we call something an adaptogen, and how do mushrooms fit into that category?
Totally. So adaptogens are, such a becoming so much more popular, which is really exciting. But there are these unique classifications of like mainly herbs and various fungi that basically have this remarkable ability to help the body adapt to stress, and it's in various ways. So it supports metabolic function and helps restore equilibrium in the body, and that action is mainly through the HPA axis, which is this neuroendocrine axis and system in the body, where the brain is basically talking to the adrenal glands. So we have these two glands in the brain, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, that that basically in times of stress they're going to signal to the adrenal glands, which are these two little glands, sit on top of the kidneys and release stress hormones. And so there's this loop and this feedback loop that happens, and that stress response in the body is so detrimental to the body long term, because it has a bunch of actions where cortisol is being pumped through the body, through the bloodstream. Our digestion is suppressed, our immune system is suppressed, and we're like, our blood glucose changes. There's a bunch of things where this stress pattern has really long term negative effects on the body, and we know that it really feels pretty icky as well to be stressed out. So enter adaptogens, these amazing herbs and fungi, which basically help. They have, plants and any food that we eat has these molecules and chemicals that go into the body and help to, their action is basically like they affect the HPA axis. So they have these like natural chemicals that act as mediators to the activation of our stress response. And that's so cool. That is so cool that these life forms, plants and fungi, that are exposed to the natural raw elements of their environment, they're often plants and fungi that have to respond to extreme environments themselves and adapt these survival tactics for the plant and the fungi itself, that then confer these benefits to our human body. So it's basically like, sharing some wisdom and some intelligence, and get that sharing action comes from the fungi to our human system. so that's this really, really cool process. And of course, we are in this stress epidemic, and it is just everywhere, insidious. You're stressed out even when you don't feel like you're stressed out. The body has no ability to decipher one stressor from the other. And it's just, we are all living in these wild times. And so it's really cool to have these incredible plants and fungi that can help the body respond to the environments and the times that we're in. And so there's quite a few various like known adaptogens and possible adaptogens and probable adaptogens that oftentimes just require more research. But the cool thing about this class of specific fungi and herbs is that they're all really, really safe, and they don't have negative effects on the body. And so that's kind of that's also a pretty important and key differentiating factor in them. In terms of mushrooms, the two adaptogens are cordyceps, which is a very well researched adaptogen, and actually has it has chemicals in it that are actual food for the adrenal glands. So they nourish the adrenal glands in a really specific way. And then reishi as well is an adaptogen that does still require more research, but across the board, mushrooms and adaptogens need more research.
Well, thank you for explaining all of that. And that was going to be my next question. Actually, what are your sort of favorite mushrooms to support the nervous system? So it sounds like those two would be a go-to. And do you have like a personal favorite medicinal mushroom?
I really love reishi. Reishi is like my spirit mushroom. I think the feeling of coming across a mushroom in a forest, especially reishi, is unlike anything I've ever experienced. It's like complete awe and recognition of another life form that for me is a really special moment. And I've had so many beautiful experiences finding reishi in forests. And so that one just has a really specific place in my heart. And then of course my body healed so much with it. So I have a very personal experience with it as well. But yeah, that one is the spirit plant, it's known as in Chinese medicine. And so reishi specifically, of course, has these immunomodulator capacities. And that's kind of across the board with all mushrooms. All mushrooms are really well known for their immune strengthening and enhancing capabilities. And when I say immunomodulator, it basically just means that, again, they are these intelligent molecules that come into the body and basically work with what the body needs. So does the immune system need to be brought up to a set point or brought down to a set point? So it's this this concept of equilibrium, which of course looks different and is different for every individual human. And so reishi and a lot of other mushrooms, they're kind of like activating the immune cells. So monocytes, macrophages, T lymphocytes, and doing a various amount of up or down regulating depending on immune responses, allergies. Reishi can be used for stress support. And it's known as this calming kind of Zen mushroom, which might be why you feel lesser of the effects of caffeine when you put it in a caffeinated beverage. It can be helpful for insomnia and for sleep issues. So it's one of the mushrooms that I actually recommend taking at both morning and at nighttime, depending on personal needs and goals. And then it has the liver benefits. I mean, yeah, it is a whole body resilience mushroom. And then I love lion's mane a lot.
It's such a beautiful mushroom.
It is.
Like
Lion's
it's so
mane, right?
unique. I remember the first time I saw it. The first time I saw it was not in the wild. I was at a farmer's market, and it was a farmer who just like everything they had were mushrooms, and I was like, "What is that?" And he was
So
like, "Oh, that's
cool.
lion's mane." I'm like, "Really?" It is I don't know. I just think it's the coolest looking thing. So you obviously sorry,
and it
so
looks
were we
like a
saying
pom-pom if people
Yeah.
aren't familiar. It's like a white pom-pom.
Yeah, totally. You know what? I bought it and this sounds terrible, but I don't think this was like years ago. I don't think I even ate it because I wasn't sure what to do with it. I was just like, it's so pretty. I'm just going to leave it here on my counter. Do you remember that, Walker?
I do, yes.
And
it was very pretty.
Yeah, and it literally just like slowly shriveled up and it was not cheap. But I don't know. I just was like, I don't know what to do with this thing.
If that does happen, you can always keep it and add it to a broth.
Oh, that's so smart. I should have done that.
That's okay. We don't know. I mean, yes, foods are so beautiful. But fungi are just so unusual and beautiful.
Totally.
But that mushroom, I mean, that is like a fan favorite. It's recently become our top seller. So people are really, really interested in lion's mane. And I think just in general, like cognitive enhancement is something that we are all seeking. I think more clarity and the ability to concentrate. There's so many distractions in our world. And so lion's mane is this incredible mushroom with really exciting research around its ability to actually prevent neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. And so there's really cool studies happening around those specific areas right now. There's people kind of making these like, mushroom stacks and pairing them with various other like, whether it's whether people are experimenting with microdosing or just like general cognitive enhancement blends. Lion's mane has this ability has two really unique compounds in it that contain nerve growth factor, which basically helps, what was once thought where the brain is static and like your brain is your brain and it's never going to change. It's only going to get worse. Now we know that that's not actually true, and the brain can regenerate and neurons can regenerate. And again, very much more empowering and thank goodness we have made these realizations and we're not limiting people's abilities of what they believe to be possible, especially when it comes to the human body and the mind. So lion's mane is a really cool mushroom.
So what would lion's mane be one of your favorites for like focus as well? Or do you have your...
Yeah. So I also take lion's mane every day, and that's kind of my concentration and focus mushroom. Exactly. So I think about like long-term effects of the brain for sure. And I think that is so important. And I think like all of these mushrooms I am using preventatively, but and I do also want to say that like, adaptogens and fungi in general, like they're increasing resilience over time. So the idea is that you are using these mushrooms for long periods of times and that they become part of the body, become part of your preventative regime and kind of acting as these functional ingredients that you are using on a daily basis.
And now for a short break. Since I was a young child, food has been such a big part of my life. I loved getting messy in the kitchen with my mom. There'd be flour everywhere on the floor, all over me and my mom, but she was never too fussed about it. And I distinctly remember baking peanut butter cookies with her, which between my brother and I were gone in about 30 seconds. And when it was safe for me to use the oven by myself, my mom would totally let me do my own experimenting. Now, as a teen, I was really into healthy eating, and this continued into my 20s and now, of course, as an adult. And when I moved out on my own, I then took cooking for myself to a whole new level. But one thing I always maintained that I learned from both my parents was cooking with simple, quality, wholesome ingredients. Nothing packaged or processed. Instead, cooking easy meals from scratch. I absolutely love creating delicious meals for my family and friends, but even if I'm just cooking for me, I still make a point of cooking nourishing and yummy meals with whole, simple, real ingredients. The inspiration behind my newest cookbook, the Joyous Cookbook, is just that. Simple cooking, feel-good food with ingredients you can find just about anywhere. The Joyous Cookbook has something for everyone. 100 recipes for happy, healthy living. From easy to make breakfasts, hearty mains, one-pot meals to sides, salads, snacks, and desserts, this cookbook will keep you well-nourished every day. Even though I've designated recipes as vegan, vegetarian, and so on, I actually don't personally subscribe to the notion that we should label ourselves based on our dietary preferences. However, if you do have restrictions or allergies, you'll find it easy to identify the best recipes for you. The most important thing is that you eat foods that nourish you and help you feel your best. There's no judgment over here. The recipes in my cookbook best represent what we typically eat as a family, which means they're both grown-up, approved, and loved, and kid-friendly. In other words, dishes for real living. There are plenty of gluten-free recipes, lots of dairy-free, grain-free, and nut-free options. We eat things like sheep's milk yogurt and feta, so I've included these ingredients in various recipes with options if you don't eat dairy. I'm so proud of this cookbook that Walker and I have created for you. It was truly a joyous experience. Walker photographed and ate all of the recipes and continues to eat everything I make. As for Vienna, she's definitely passionate about eating too, and she's very honest. Kids either love or hate food, and one thing is for sure, she loves fish tacos, chicken fingers, pasta, and pizza, all of which you'll find in my newest cookbook. If you already have my cookbook, thank you for bringing it into your home. If you don't, you can find it wherever books are sold, and of course on Indigo here in Canada or on Amazon worldwide. And we also have it on joyoushealth.com. When you buy 2 or more of my cookbooks, because I actually have 3 cookbooks, you get 10% off. And when you buy 3 or more, you get 20% off. So simply visit shopjoyoushealth.com. So that's shopjoyoushhealth.com. Shopjoyoushealth.com. Happy cooking and baking, friends. And now back to our awesome guest.
So, I mean, it's clear that you have a deep love and admiration
And
for
knowledge.
fungi and knowledge. Yes, I mean, it's the depth of knowledge. I'm sure we're just scratching the surface here. And I don't think I've ever met anyone who has said they have a spirit mushroom. So that should tell us something, and everyone listening here. But it's one thing to, have a passion and love for something. It's another thing to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to turn this into a business. And I'm going to start a company
You have to be
around
crazy.
these. Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
exactly. What prompted that shift, and at what point we were like, this is the next step?
Mhm. Well, I think it's interesting to reflect on that, because before Rainbow, I was practicing as a holistic nutritionist, and my life looks really different. Yeah, it's kind of a long story, I guess, but I
We've
was
got
I was
time.
kind of yeah, okay. I was at this point in my career where it was pretty early on. I had just kind of like started the Well Woman and a consulting practice in 2017. And I actually just was saying yes to so many opportunities, and was working myself really, really hard, which is a pattern of mine, I guess I'll say. And so I got really, really burned out, and I ended up getting really sick. And I was invited to a Native American fire ceremony, and I was in February of 2018. And I ended up having such a wild experience. It was really, really beautiful, beautiful ceremony, and it kind of just unlocked something in me. And I got really, really sick with a virus, and I had to go to the hospital, and it turned into this thyroid thing. And so I had to kind of reevaluate. I took that time to reevaluate how I was working and how I wanted to show up in the world, and how I wanted to make a difference with more than just the 2 hands that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had been interested in mushrooms for a while, and just kind of felt absolutely no pressure, but I had time, and I bought a bunch of books and started researching, because I couldn't really work at the time. And so I allowed myself to just explore this curiosity and passion. And what came from that was just kind of like a truly mind-blowing realization of what fungi represent, and and I've always really, really wanted to make a difference and have had an entrepreneurial spirit. And so it was kind of like just this moment of like, I am somebody with a lot of ideas. And so obviously sometimes those ideas take form, and a lot of times those ideas are just ideas. And yeah, they don't have the execution behind them, but they're still, it's nice to generate ideas. But this one was just different in that it felt like it had a sense of direction and a force behind it greater than myself. And so stuff just started happening really quickly, and it felt really unstoppable. And it was just like, I I think it's like what something that I love to talk about, and I love to tell young entrepreneurs or just people thinking about um, doing their own thing is that it really, I believe it really has to come from this place of like pure passion and a driving force and like a reason that's much larger than yourself and personal experience and ultimately just your purpose. I think connecting to that purpose is going to give you this unlimited supply of energy to execute and to make something from this like unmanifest idea stage into the manifest world where it's a living and breathing thing that exists. And so that was kind of a process where it was this beautiful time where I felt no pressure. Whereas like right now, the mushroom industry is booming, and there's a lot of brands popping up into the space, and I really value how I created this and where it came from. Um, and I really urge people to connect with that, like if they want to start a business, because it truly is a crazy thing. It is a massive sacrifice of every ounce of you, um, that that has to come from a place of like of of a sensation that you are on a life purpose. I think that that's also what the world needs, is people living in alignment with their dharmic purpose, and that we would have a really incredible economy and world if that were the case. And I do think that like our younger generations are trending towards that as well, given the world and the earth and where we're at. Um, so that was kind of the journey. And then it was, and then you tap into that place where you feel like you're in the flow and opportunities are presenting themselves, and there isn't a resistance, like you're swimming upstream, but you feel that things are happening to support the endeavor and the efforts that you're doing, which really is like such a breath of fresh air to find that. And of course, like there are big struggles and failures and learnings every single day. But still there is just this like sensation of things moving the way that they should be. And I think that happens when people are in alignment with what they're meant to be doing.
Wonderful. I just love listening to you, actually. You're really great, just such an interesting person. And I've just been really enjoying hearing your story. And it's just,
Thank
you're
you.
so authentic. And I just really appreciate entrepreneurs like yourself
Hmm.
sharing your journey, because it's just so, it just comes from such a good place. I feel like there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are like, I just want to start this company so I can sell it and make millions of dollars in 2 years. And I've
Hmm.
never connected with that. And I
No.
really connect with your story, and I feel like I can relate to it so much, because I've always said to Walker, I'm never not going to be doing what I'm doing. I like
Yeah.
love Joyous Health and creating recipes, and it's just,
Yeah.
I enjoy it so much, and I can see that you do as well. And I wanted to, before we finish up, I really just, want you to share about Rainbow, and talk about maybe some of like your best-selling products. Your team actually sent Walker and I the 1111, the forest juice, and a couple others. So I'm really excited to dig
Oh,
into
we have the
those.
forest juice.
We do.
Oh, I
Yes.
see
I
that, the
made
maple
sure.
syrup.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
knew I knew you needed that. I
All
knew you
right,
needed
good call.
Yeah. So, can you just talk about some of your favorite products, and talk about as well the names? Maybe we could start with 1111.
for sure. Yeah, so Rainbow is a functional mushroom line of products, and our mushrooms are all cultivated and grown in Canada, which we're really championing Canadian mushrooms, which is
That's
exciting.
great.
Um, and so yeah, 1111 is the first product that we launched with,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, it was really like I created a few blends and ran a pilot study with like friends and naturopathic doctors and some people in Toronto, and everybody just across the board, that was the winner. So I was like, okay, this is the one product we'll launch with. And so it's a blend of 11 medicinal mushrooms that are duly extracted. So mushrooms are really like, you know, they have a hard chitinous structure, which requires heat to break down the cell wall so that you can access the nutrients. So there's a hot water extraction and an alcohol extraction. And so 1111, that's what I mean when I say dual extract.
Mm-hmm.
And so 11 mushrooms have this beautiful ability to work in tandem with one another. So it creates a synergistic quality, which just means that the combined effects are greater than the mushrooms kind of on their own. So it's this concept of teamwork, and 1111 is great for kind of general immunity. I would say is kind of what we get across the board is like overall resilience. We have people like all sorts of people. We have tons of reviews on this product, and I love reading them. People have different experiences. For some people, it's much more immediate, and others they don't notice the effects for like 3 months, and they're kind of like, oh well, you know, I was around my nieces and nephews this winter, as I usually am, and it's the first time I didn't get sick, or whatever the case may be.
I know kids are little contagions.
Totally. Um, there's lion's mane, which I was mentioning earlier, which is this, we call it our brain power super mushroom. So this is a well-known mushroom for its cognitive enhancement and enhancement capabilities, and general kind of like neurodegeneration support and protection. And we have reishi, which I've mentioned, our adaptogen mushroom. There's turkey tail, which is actually, you know, a surprising mushroom because it is the most researched mushroom on the market.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
think it's
like
the funniest name. I don't know why, but the name always makes me chuckle.
it is. Yeah, it is. It definitely, all of our products are like, they're all vegan as well. I'll get to cordyceps, which is why I say that. But yeah, so turkey tail is known as this immune support mushroom. And there are doctors that recommend this mushroom, which is really cool. It's kind of one of the only mushrooms that has recognition
Cool.
within that space. And there's cordyceps. I'm sorry, I want to just clarify that and say that like in the traditional doctors like world of medicine, I think that will change. But of course, you know, you have tons of functional medicine practitioners and doctors and naturopaths who are well versed with these mushrooms. Cordyceps is our energy mushroom. So this is a really cool mushroom that has the ability to kind of elicit energy in the form of ATP in the mitochondria. And athletes, like some athletes use this mushroom specifically. There's a really cool study on how Olympic athletes in Japan used this mushroom to win races and enhance their like aerobic efficiency and capacity. And so there is a version of this mushroom. It's a really cool, crazy fungi, not a mushroom, a fungi that grows and is a parasitic fungi that infects insects and like takes over the host. So we make a vegan version, which is
so
Cordyceps
cool.
militaris. That is a really cool mushroom or fungi. And then there's chaga, which is known as the king of medicinal mushrooms. I will also say reishi is known as the queen of medicinal mushrooms. And chaga is this master antioxidant with really impressive antioxidant values and abilities to kind of like activate certain cells in the body that help kind of just helps the body scavenge for any like free radicals or cells that have gone awry in the process of our natural everyday aging process. And then we make 1111 alcohol free as well. And our turkey tail is alcohol free. And we have forest juice, which is a mushroom infused maple syrup.
Can I just ask a quick question? So
Yeah,
when you're talking about cordyceps, you said you corrected yourself a couple of times saying it's a fungi and not a mushroom.
right.
So are all mushrooms fungi, but not all fungi mushrooms?
Yeah, I guess you could think about it like that. So all fungi are this big classification of the life of the life form. And then within that, a mushroom itself is really just like the reproductive organ of the mycelium. And the mycelium is kind of like the root structure of fungi. So that's what is underneath the ground and holds together the entire planet and forests and acts
Mm-hmm.
as this like mycelial highway to transport nutrients underground from trees to plants and etc. And so that mycelium grows. It has like a rapid ability to grow, and also is really long when you have these like tiny cells kind of laid out. But what comes from that is a reproductive organ that comes up through the ground, and that's what a mushroom is. Certain fungi like chaga or cordyceps are not mushrooms in the way that they're the bodies that form from them. So in chaga, we call it the conch that forms on a tree, on a birch tree, is called a sclerotia. And for cordyceps, it has a different name as well. It's called the stroma. And so there's just like kind of these different classifications of what that structure is that has the active compounds that we harvest for either food or creating natural medicines. And so I hope that provides a bit more
So
clarity.
anything I'm just looking at the ingredients here for 1111. So anything with a fruiting body would be kind of considered a mushroom. And then I see you have the
Exactly.
other classifications here, and those would
Mhm.
be fungi.
Yeah. And those would be fungi, and we would call it like the stroma is harvested for cordyceps, and the sclerotia is, and it is still like you can think about it like it is the fruiting body, but that's not technically what it's called.
So, you often hear about, because mushrooms have become so trendy, you hear like, oh, how do you know that that product is clean? Free from whatever they're called, mycotoxins.
Mhm.
So, what sort of processes do you have with Rainbow to ensure that you have the best product available?
Totally. So we do a lot of third party lab analysis, and most of that stuff is readily available from companies if you ask them to send it to you, and if you ask them to show you kind of like heavy metal ranges. And it is the responsibility of any mushroom manufacturer to have that and to be doing that. And so the things that you want to look out for are kind of the heavy metals, because heavy metals can concentrate anywhere in nature,
Right.
and every food is going to have a slightly different range, but of course there's upper limits to what is safe. Sometimes actually, depending on the area, like fresh wild mushrooms can have a greater concentration of heavy metals than cultivated mushrooms. But we do control, we have really high standards for the organic USP pharma grade ethanol that we use for our extractions. And then beyond that, we have various like kind of these quality SOPs in place to make sure that across the board our products are the safest possible products that we can put on the market. And we verify that through labs. So we look for heavy metals, there's gluten, pesticides, a range of different chemicals that you can look into, and we do those on a regular basis. Like certain ones we're doing on every single batch, and then we have like there's ones that we just want to know like glyphosates.
Right.
Um, Again, our products aren't coming into contact with that, but we still want to know which like to ensure that is not making its way into anything. And then if we're procuring any ingredients, and those ingredient suppliers need to show us their certificate of analysis. So there's definitely a strict process for ensuring the quality of our products.
That's amazing. So I have a question like about the heavy metals. When it's extracted, is that where it's like removed, or does it depend on the mushroom itself, whether it's high in heavy metals, and that determines the outcome of the product? Like, can you get rid of the heavy metals when you create the blend, or is it just a result of the sourcing of the mushroom?
So it's kind of, so mushrooms are bioaccumulators, which is really cool because there's mushrooms that have grown like near Chernobyl that have actually like adapted to extract the radioactive materials out of the ground. And so, of course, that's not a mushroom that you would want to consume. But like, it's a really cool concept in microremediation, which is that these mushrooms can act as bioaccumulators. So, mushroom is really only as healthy as its environment or its substrate. So, you can, by having, clean substrate that you're growing the mushrooms on, you technically should be ensuring through the process of like organic starting materials and non-GMO starting materials and materials that don't have, pesticide contamination, that the heavy metals wouldn't be present. But again, like heavy metals are also still a part of, it is part of the environment. They are kind of everywhere. So there's going to be trace amounts in absolutely everything. You just want to make sure that like those tests that you're getting are verifying that it's not above what should be a safe harbor limit. But technically it's like, your cacao has trace amounts, and the food that you're eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner has trace amounts.
Everything you eat is going to have heavy metals. It's just some have more than others, and then just having that awareness, I think, is really great of your sort of process. And like you said, the substrate you use and where you grow them. Now, I think I read on your website that you cultivate all the mushrooms yourself, grow them. I don't know what the right word is, but chaga is the only one that you get from the wild. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly.
That's so cool. So where do you get your chaga from?
Our chaga is, so we have a bunch of different foragers and a foraging network. So like we have a grower specifically. I myself am not growing the mushrooms. That would be really cool. But our grower is, he has a really great network of foragers who he has trained to kind of like sustainably wildcraft the chaga. So that means being respectful to the tree and like, actually like procuring it in a specific way that doesn't damage the tree or leave the tree vulnerable to other infections. You shouldn't just be like finding a piece of chaga and yanking it or using an axe or anything like that. So we have various foragers across Quebec and Ontario that we get our chaga from.
Amazing. So, and as you mentioned, it's like all Canadian. Like I find it so cool. Like, you can be walking along in a forest and you like see some chaga. Although I would not take it because honestly, I am not a mushroom expert, so I would likely take the wrong thing or like damage the tree. But you know what? It's amazing when you're looking. Like we are really close to High Park, and so we go for a lot of walks in High Park. And certain times of the year, when you look down, it is unbelievable how many mushrooms there are. Like it's just like when you actually look for it, it's like, holy cow. It's just
it's so remarkable.
Yeah,
especially
it is so
in the
remarkable.
Fall.
Yeah, totally. That's what I'm thinking back to when we have some friends who are like mega mushroom lovers like yourself. And they have you might know Megan and Josh, and they have a son, Finn. They love he's like, their kid is obsessed with mushrooms. So whenever we go for our little nature walks in High Park, like Finn, he finds like, it's unbelievable how many mushrooms he finds. It's the cutest thing ever.
That is really cute.
Yeah,
I love children foragers.
I know. He's going to be teaching Vienna. Our daughter's name is Vienna. He'll be teaching her all about these medicinal Medicinal. Why do I keep saying that? I keep
Medicinal?
saying medicinal.
like
medicinal mushrooms. Yeah. Well, you have just been such a fountain of knowledge. I've so enjoyed chatting with you. We could definitely continue on with this chat. Maybe we'll have you back another time because I feel like there's so many more directions in mushrooms that we could talk about. So, Walker and I really appreciate you being here with us. And if you could share with everyone, obviously we'll have everything in the show notes, but if you could just share with everyone where they can find you and Rainbow, all that good stuff.
Of course. And to that point, I was also just going to mention that we are launching a really cool product towards the end of the summer. And I think, I'm not going to say too much, but I think we should definitely chat again because I know that it'll be something of interest, and it's a much larger topic to explore around what this is and why it was created.
Exciting.
So I'll be in touch about that. But people can find me at and find Rainbow at Rainbo Mushrooms on Instagram. So our handle is Rainbow RAINBO, no W, mushrooms. And our website's rainbow.com. And then you can find me at also on Instagram at Tonya Papanikolov, which is a long one to spell.
We'll make sure we have that in the show notes. And your products ship Canada and the US only?
Canada and the US. We're still figuring out some of our EU countries and shipping internationally, but yes, all across Canada and the US right now.
Okay, amazing. Well, we're excited to hear your product launch for the summer.
I'm excited to share. Based on our conversation, I'll say I think it'll be of interest to you.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you have so many amazing products. I mean, even beyond mushrooms, I'm just looking at your cute lunch tote bag that says "Mush Love."
Yeah.
So cute. Awesome.
Thank you. Well, so great to chat with you. Thank you so much for having me on, Joy. And I loved our chat so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tonya.
Thank you.